Hi guys, welcome back to the another video wherein we'll be discussing March June 2024 AA past paper, and in this video I'll be solving question number 2, which is majorly related to your internal controls portion. So let's begin. I'll be reading the case study first and then we'll be moving ahead with answering the questions, and we'll be following the same approach. Now, just to give you a little bit brief about internal controls and how do they actually function, I'll first explain what internal controls is, because I know a lot of students do get confused between 3 to 4 terminologies that we have. The first one, which I believe, see, I'll first demonstrate what all terminologies do we usually include within this topic, and then we'll continue with having an example to understand the same, right? So the first one is control deficiency. Okay. Then we have direct control. Okay. Then we have test of controls. And then we have control recommendation. Okay. So these are the 4 terminologies majorly that we use in this particular topic. And let's first take an example to understand these 4 terminologies so that you are better aware of the question also, right? So if I give you an example that you have a warehouse, okay? You have a warehouse where you have kept inventory for, say, rupees 5 lakh rupees is there. Inventory in terms of the goods are kept over here. Okay. Now, of course, because it is a warehouse, there are a lot of chances. So what is the risk over here? What is the risk is that my first risk can be that there can be a theft, that somebody can come into the warehouse, they can steal my goods and I'll be in loss. So that can be theft. Second thing that can happen is some rats or some animal pitches in, comes in, eats everything up, and again damage is there. So damage is another thing. Third, within, I would say, part of damage is there is a flood which comes, or like an earthquake that comes, and due to which your again goods get damaged, right? So this is the risk that can happen, that something will happen to your inventory which is kept, and due to that your 5 lakh rupees inventory will have a lower value or maybe turn to zero. That is our major concern. We have to protect our inventory, right? That's the first thing. Now, to prevent the inventory from getting from getting stolen, from getting damaged, we put in some controls. Like control का मतलब क्या होता है कि मैंने कुछ उसके ऊपर लगा दिया ताकि मेरा risk minimize हो जाए, so that my risk minimizes. Okay, so controls like I will implement a CCTV camera so that I can see who's coming to the warehouse, who is anybody there who is not actually part of my team and is coming and stealing the goods or whatever is happening. I'll be able to know. And this is the most common thing that usually people do, not just in the warehouses but nowadays in their homes also, because these things are increasing. So CCTV is the first mitigation thing that you can do. So this is a control, direct control, which you have implemented in order to safeguard your inventory, right? Second control can be a security guard. Okay, security guard is there. He is there in the morning, in the night also. He's looking after the warehouse, the inventory, that whosoever is coming, he's keeping a check. He's keeping there are no animals revolving around the food if it is the food business. The security guard is also there. Again, this has become very, very common, not just in like the inventory portion of or the warehouse portion of it, but nowadays are at our homes also. So this is another example of putting a control, right? And then there can be a third person only, who is like a warehouse manager or like a warehouse supervisor, who is coming in every week, keeping a check and seeing if it is all right or no, the warehouse is fine or no, inventory is fine or no, and then going it. So again, a control is there, right? So this is a classic example of your risk. What is the risk over here? Then what is my direct control over here? I just now discussed the direct control. Now, if I have put a control as an auditor, how do I know, or as a person, a third party, how do I know that these controls are effectively working? Maybe the CCTV camera is there, but it's not working. then it does not, cater to our needs. So again, test of controls is basically testing the controls that I have, as simple as the wording is. Whatever controls I have implemented, for example, the CCTV camera that I implemented, I will be keeping a check regularly on the footages of the CCTV camera, whether it is working or no, or if I have a security guard, I will be, inquiring from him what is happening at the warehouse, if he's keeping the records of who's coming in, who's going out, all of these things. So this is test of my controls, test of the direct controls that I've applied. Okay, so this is test of controls. Don't get confused. Now, of course, if as an auditor, I did test of control and I was able to find, oh my God, the CCTV camera is not working. That is a deficiency. In my control was CCTV cameras, but the control deficiency is that my CCTV camera is not working from past 4 months, for example. And in those 4 months, I got to know that my inventory was, very less, which means that there was theft happening in the inventory in the warehouse. So CCTV camera was not working. That will be my deficiency in my control. So control was CCTV camera, but then somebody else came in, a third party came in, and they told me that it is not working from past 4 months, which is my deficiency in the controls that I've applied. For example, if the security guard is there, a third person came randomly someday, and the security guard was sleeping. Again, it is a deficiency, right? Because if he's sleeping, he's not keeping check on the warehouse, somebody can enter, steal the stuff and go, right? Nobody will know that. Again, that is a deficiency, that the security guard was sleeping and not keeping a check on the warehouse, right? So this is a deficiency. Now, as an auditor, when you get to know that, okay, this is the deficiency that the company is facing, you as an auditor will recommend some recommendation. So that is your control recommendation, that, hey, listen, I know that this is a deficiency that is happening in the company. Now listen to me and follow these recommendations. So maybe he'll say, put a new camera if the old camera is damaged. Make sure that on a daily basis you are checking the footages of the camera on a random basis, right? That is one recommendation. Second would be that security guard sleeping is an issue. So again, CCTV camera can put on the, you can watch security guard also, and you can again keep a regulatory check on him, asking him what is happening in the warehouse, keeping a manager for the same. That of course, if you do not have the time, you can keep a manager who is keeping a check on these and giving you daily updates. So that can be my recommendation. So I hope with this little example, you got to know all of these 4 pointers in a brief manner, right? Now let's go to our case study and let's discuss our case study now. I hope now you will be in a better position to answer the case study and further case studies also, which you'll be practicing. Okay. It is 1st July 2005. You are an audit. So, okay, one thing I usually tell students to do is, because here, again, we always read the question first, right? So that at least we get to know what is the question, and while reading the case study, we're able to identify simultaneously, just like we did for the audit risk also. We simultaneously drafted. Here also, we'll be simultaneously drafting the answers. Okay, so let's begin. Let's first read the question number 1. ISA 265 communicating deficiencies in internal controls to TCWG and management. Okay, some of the students also ask me, ma'am, is ISA is important? Guys, no, it's not important. Not, especially for audit students, AA students, it's not at all important. IFRSs and the IAS are important, but not ISAs. I myself did not learn it, so it's absolutely fine. Do not need them. Provides guidance on communicating significant deficiencies in internal controls. Okay. So there are 2 parts to this. One says, define a significant deficiency in internal control. So what do you understand? What do you mean? Or what does the auditor mean when he's saying that this deficiency is significant? This is not significant. That's the first thing that it is asking. And the next thing is, describe 3 matters that auditor may consider in determining whether a deficiency in internal controls is significant. Now, if you see the marks, it's for 4 marks, right? And it's asking 3 matters. So that means this part is for 3 marks and this above part is only for 1 mark. So again, you do not have to write stories, just a crisp answer would be good to go. And here, if you read the note, you do not need to refer to the case scenario. So let's not read the case study first. Let's answer this first because this is not related to the case study at all, right? So if I first talk about the first part, which is significant deficiencies. So as an auditor, again, this is a knowledge-based question, as I spoke earlier also in your risk question, the question number 1, that I have created a PDF. Please refer to that PDF in order to get all the knowledge-based, commonly asked knowledge-based questions all at once. This is just a part of that. I'll just quickly explain you that, an auditor will consider one deficiency or accumulation of deficiency to be significant if it will always depend upon this professional judgment, that how much is that deficiency actually impacting the financial statements, how much is it in fact impacting the financial statements, right? So what is the importance of it? Is it something we need to communicate to the those charged with governance, right? So that is the criteria which signifies that the deficiency is significant or no. So that is a clear-cut definition of significance, and this is from the auditor's perspective, right? Auditor's judgment, professional judgment, right? And then the next thing is, describe 3 matters the auditor may consider in determining whether a deficiency in, again, I give you example that if it impacts your financial statements, of course it is significant. If due to this deficiency there can be some losses, some frauds, some errors happening, of course it is significant. If it is very subjective, your opinion can be different, my opinion can be different, I'm sorry, and TCWG opinion can be different. So again, it depends on the opinion also. So again, that if that is the case, then yes, it is significant actually. Then the how much amount is exposed because of this, if it is significant, if it is above materiality level, again same thing, same criteria, right? So all of these criteria you can write any 3 because it's only asking 3. So I think we are good to go. Very very easy 4 straightforward marks. Okay, now let's move ahead with the next question. Okay. In respect to the system of internal controls of F company, identify and explain 3 direct controls. So direct controls is like a positive thing that the company does. Control, CCTV camera. Remember it with that. Controls means I have put a CCTV camera. So means a positive thing that the company is doing in order to mitigate the risk, right? Which the auditor may seek to place reliance on. Okay, that's the first part. Second part says, describe test of controls. So test of controls was that we were seeing if the CCTV camera is working or no, right? The auditor should perform to assess if each of these direct controls are operating effectively. So makes sense also, right? It is a 6 marker. That means 3 direct controls I have to write, 3 test of controls for the same I have to write. Okay, now let's read the case study first, and we will be drafting our answers. We'll copy pasting same thing that we did previously. We'll be copy pasting, writing the direct controls, and I'm sure that the next question, if I feel, will be about deficiencies. Let's read this last question also for this particular question, which is a 10 marker. It says 5 deficiencies in the internal controls and also provide the recommendation. So I need to write 5 deficiencies. So 3 good points, 5 bad points. Okay. Now, usually what I do, again, same thing to save time. What I'll do is, because of course I do not have to navigate. So what I'll do is, I'll read the case study. I'll show you how to do it. I'll read the case study. I'll copy paste direct controls over here. I'll copy paste the deficiencies also over here. Then I'll copy paste this to the next sheet. I'll show you that also. Saves a lot of time, guys. Saves a lot of time. Okay. Okay, let's read. It is 1st July 2005. Okay, so we are concerned about the dates. You're an audit supervisor with Canyon and Company preparing the draft audit programs and reviewing extracts from internal control documentation in preparation for the client of for the audit of your client, Francisco Company. The company's year end is 30th September. And it is a wholesale food operator with 18 distribution depots and 1 central warehouse. So you have 1 central warehouse and there are 18 depots that we have. So from that particular warehouse, you dispatch your goods to those depots, right? That's fine. Okay. Now we can see that there are 3 subheadings, right? One is payroll, one is purchases, and one is non-current assets. Okay. Let's read the first one. Francisco Company employs distribution depot staff who are paid monthly based on number of hours worked, which is fine. How many number of hours they are working, they are paid for that. Each employee has a staff identity card which they use to sign in and out of the depot at the beginning and end of each shift to record the hours worked. And this process is supervised by a security staff as well as a CCTV camera. Okay, so now see guys, this is little tricky over here. Okay, so if sometimes what happens is a single statement can be a deficiency and can be a control. So we need to read the entire statement very, very carefully. I'll give you an example over here. Okay, wait, let me copy paste the statement if it allows me to OneNote. Does it? Okay, yeah. So I have this statement with me. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, right. So if I read, again, reading the statement, each employee has a staff identity card, which they use to sign in and out of the depot at the beginning and in the end of the shift to record their working hours. If I read till here, do you guys think this is a deficiency or a control? I think this is a deficiency. Why is it a deficiency? Because see, if I am an employee, my friend is also an employee. If nobody is looking at me and my friend has that identity card. Now, maybe sometimes he does not want to come. Usko man nahi kar raha hai jaane ka office. So he says, he handles me the card. He says ki, you swipe instead of me. So I am going to the office. He is not coming to the office, but his attendance is being marked, due to which he will be getting payroll. That means he will be getting the payment for that particular day also, even though he has not worked, because nobody is looking at it. If this was the end of it, nobody said iske aage kya hai, this was the only statement, and I read itna statement, then this is a deficiency. But they have clearly written that this process is supervisor security staff. So that is one control I have, that which is being supervisor security staff, and another control that I have is CCTV camera. So two controls I have put in for the deficiency. That means this is a direct control and not a deficiency. I hope I'm making some sense that how can a single line be a deficiency as well as a control. You need to read it really very, very carefully in order to identify whether it is a deficiency or a control, right? So I'll copy paste the statement. I'll write over here. I talk about how is it a direct control, just like I explained to you, because there is a CCTV camera and this will eliminate the risk of, some employee punching in for somebody else, right? And then the test of control would be to check the CCTV cameras, to discuss with the security staff, to make sure that he's there, to check his records, all of those things, anything that you can write, right? Okay, let's read the next line. The hours worked by employee per employee are automatically transferred from signing in system into the payroll system. Okay, automatic. There's something which is known as automation, which is happening over here, right? The hourly wage rate is preset and the employee system automatically calculates the gross pay and net pay along with relevant statutory deductions and produces pay slips which are immediately emailed to employees. Okay, now again, reading this statement and telling you people over here, see, this is the statement that they are talking about. They are telling you that we are doing automation. Okay, we are doing automation because they are doing everything via the automation and there's no supervision that is happening. Supervisor, there's no supervisor. Now think, do you think that a system which is automatically running will not have any problems? Do you think that machine is always correct? No, there can be certain issues sometimes in the automation process also. So there should be a supervisor or some supervision, or somebody senior of the senior level should see if this is happening correctly or no. If not, then they should regularly check it, right? So that is why this, I think, is a deficiency, because iske aage they did not say that it is being reviewed on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis by a supervisor, right? So this is a control deficiency that is there, and we will copy this statement, we'll put it over here so that we remember that this is a deficiency, and then we'll be explaining it as per that, right? Okay, next. So we'll highlight this in probably green. Okay. Access to employee standing data in the payroll department is restricted to the payroll managers through the use of password, which the system requires to change on monthly basis. Very good process, I think. This is a direct control, because if only one person is having the access of the passwords of the restricted records, then of course there will be less chances of frauds and errors happening, right? And that password also is regularly changing. So it's better. Why? Because some students think that why are they changing the password regularly? Do you not do, if I talk about you, okay, do you not do two-factor authentication on your phones? Do you not, regularly change your passwords of your emails and Instagram, Facebook, whatever, regularly? Because sometimes what happens is, if for example I'm typing my password and my friend also saw it, now he knows my password, but if I continuously change, after I know that after I've put an alarm that after 1 month I have to change all my passwords. That way, if somebody got to know by chance my password, he or she will not be able to access my records, because by then I've already changed my password, right? So that is the reason this is a very good practice that they're doing, that only one person has the access, plus that password also keeps on changing, right? Okay, so I've copy pasted. You'll explain. Test of controls would be, you are keeping a check. You are seeing that if the password is changing on a monthly basis, and you can also inquire from the payroll manager about how he's accessing the particular standing data, right? So this is your this is your control. Okay. Distribution depots, employees are paid by bank transfers on monthly basis. The senior payroll manager reviews the list of bank payments and agrees this to the payroll records. Okay, so he is the one who is actually reviewing the bank payments, and he is also agreeing it to the payroll records. Okay, if any discrepancies are noted, these are investigated again by the same person, senior payroll manager, who then makes a required adjustment. Do you not think that there should be two people doing this activity? One should be the person who is actually agreeing this to the payroll records, and one should be the person who is reviewing it and making adjustments. So this is a deficiency, and this is the deficiency relating to lack of segregation of duties, right? Because the same senior payroll manager is reviewing he's doing three tasks. Okay, three tasks he's doing. He's reviewing the list of bank payments, he's agreeing the same to the payroll records, and he's also investigating any differences. So of course self review aa jayega na yahan pe. If I'm making all of the transactions, I'm listing all of the transactions, and I am only the person who is reviewing it, I'll be like, oh my god, maine to khud se kiya hai, it is all correct, I'll not be having any discrepancies, and I'll move ahead. Apni galtiyan koi nahi nikalta hai, right? So that is the reason yahan pe there's a problem of segregation of duties, and that will be a deficiency. And the recommendation would be that you need to advise to the managers that there should be a separate person who is reviewing and making the adjustments to the work done by senior payroll manager, right? Okay, so this is a deficiency. Okay, right? Okay, now let's move to the next part, which is purchases. Francisco Company has a central purchasing department based at its head office. When goods are received, a production supervisor submits a request to the purchasing department. Okay, so request has been submitted. So production supervisor submits to the purchasing department. That's fine. A multi-part purchase order is then generated. The purchasing manager authorizes all the orders below 3,000, and the purchasing director, who is majorly a senior person, he is authorizing the orders above 3,000, which is a very good practice. This will ensure that only those because purchasing department is getting the orders from the production department, so only the orders that actually the company needs, only the goods the company actually needs will be ordered, and no extra or fraudulent or personal goods of the department will be ordered. So this is like a good practice, and this is a direct control. Fine. Okay. On receipt of the goods, the quantity and quantities received are checked by a warehouse team manager against the supplier's delivery note, and a goods received note is produced. A copy of GRN is sent to the finance department and purchasing department. Now here the copy of the copy is missing. To whom the GRN is only being sent to the purchasing department and the finance department, not the production department. So if I'm not sending it to the production department, how will it? Because production department is the one who told me that bring 10 goods, right? If I am not sending them a copy of the goods that I have received, how do I ensure that only those 10 goods were ordered? Maybe 20 goods were ordered, maybe only 5 goods were ordered. So production department should also be sent the GRN, which is a problem over here, and we'll go to our deficiencies portion. Okay, next. When purchase invoices are received from the suppliers, they are logged in to an invoices received file. Okay. The accounting system assigns each invoice a unique number based on the supplier's code and date of input. Fine. The finance clerk then matches the invoices to a copy of relevant purchase orders and passes those two documents to the finance director for authorization prior to the invoices being input in the payables. That's fine. Okay. Next. Now here, if I see, do you think that there should be a sequential number also? They are providing you an invoice. Okay, let's read it again. Assigns each invoice a unique number based on the supplier's code and date of input, which is fine, right? But they are not sequentially numbering it. Okay, see, what do you understand by sequentially numbered is that, if I'm making invoice number 1, that's 1, that's 2, then 3, then 4. So that is sequentially numbered, as the name suggests. So if, for example, I'm not sequentially numbering it, I'm just writing the code, how will I ensure how many, purchases have been made? 10, 15, how would I know? And if there is a missing out of those, so if I sequentially number it, if 4 is missing, it is 3 and 5, I'll be asking the manager, where is the 4th number card, right? So that should be done. Sequentially numbering should be done so that we know that there's no miss, no fraud, nothing happening. Okay. So again, this is one of your deficiencies, that it should be sequentially numbered. Okay. Next, let's read the last one as well, and then we'll be done. Non-current assets. Francisco Company owns approximately 55% of its distribution depots, and the remainder are leased premises which have been confirmed as correctly capitalized in line with relevant accounting standards. Okay. The lease agreements and ownership documents are held in the finance department. Okay, so we have the lease agreements also, we have the ownership documents also. Earlier in the year, members of the company's internal audit department undertook a review of these lease agreements and ownership documents, but were unable to locate a number of relevant documents. So now documentation is really, really very important for a legal and statutory compliance. And if the audit team is not able to locate any such documents, it will lead to a statutory compliance issue that can happen with the company. So the company should have all the relevant documentation for the leases also, for the ownership also, right? So this is a major deficiency, that you should have all the relevant documentation with you at a particular place, so that everybody who comes in at least knows that, okay, these are the relevant documentation and they can review it whenever possible, right? So this is a deficiency, that the relevant documentation was not there. And if it is not there, it will lead to statutory compliance issues, statutory problems, and can also lead to some fines and penalties to the company. And the recommendation should be that there should be a proper documentation being followed, right? Next. Each distribution depot is set up as a separate cost center, okay, and is given an annual capital expenditure budget, but some cost centers have already significantly exceeded their budget. So we're exceeding the budgets. When new equipment is purchased, the finance manager classifies the purchase order as capital or revenue expenditure. Okay, so when they're purchasing a new equipment, the finance manager will classify the order as a capital expenditure and the revenue expenditure. The classification is made with reference to formal company policy established by the finance director, who sample checks that the capital or the revenue expenditure allocation has been correctly applied, and then evidences this by way of signature. So this is a control that he is applying, that he is checking whether the person who a finance manager is actually classifying it correctly or no, and then he reviews it, the finance director reviews it and also signs it by the way of signature. So this is a complete process that we should always follow. So this is again your control and not a deficiency, right? So this is how we are able to identify our controls and our deficiencies. I explained you everything in really very, very detailed. I hope that you're able to understand this. This is how we write the answers. I've explained it really nicely, and how to write the answers also. Let us discuss that. For example, okay, let's discuss this one only. Let's put up take a control. So again, as I said earlier, also in the risk question that we identified, first thing should be a heading. Okay, heading again won't take you more than 2 to 3 seconds to write a particular heading. Very important, looks good for the presentation also. Right, the next thing should be statement from question. So again, here, if I talk about this particular thing, which was control, I'll copy paste the statement from the question and write in my answers. Now, if you guys will say, ma'am, ये तो बहुत बड़ी-बड़ी statements है, क्या ये हमको सारी लिखनी है? आपने तो इतनी बड़ी-बड़ी statements copy paste कर दी हैं? नहीं. This is a draft answer that I've created for you. So now you will be amending it as per you. So I copy pasted that. Supposingly मैंने ये copy paste किया, मैंने यहाँ पे heading डाली, CCTV cameras and security guard. Okay, तो मैंने ये heading डाली. I put this heading, and now I will be, each employee has a separate identity card which they use to sign in and sign out of the and this person supervisor. This is fine. I think this much is fine. If you write this much, this is fine because आप इतना लिखोगे at least, and then you write your explanation over here. Okay, explanation over here. And that is how you complete your deficiencies portion. So you will explain how this is a control. This is a control because this process is actually being reviewed by a security guard and CCTV cameras. This will lead to a reduction of risk happening, that, the two of these guys exchange their, identity card, and he swipes on behalf of that person. So that is your explanation that you will be writing, right? Let's take something which is big, probably. Yeah, okay, let's take this one. Now you say me, ma'am, इतनी बड़ी statement तो नहीं लिखेंगे. Of course नहीं लिखना है हमको. We have to be very crystal clear into what we are writing. So if I read, Francisco company has a central purchasing warehouse, so we are not concerned with this. We'll simply delete. This is not a control, so we'll delete. When goods are required, a production supervisor submits a request to the purchasing department. Again, not required. You can simply delete. Now, this is important. A multi-part purchase order is then generated. The purchasing manager authorizes all the orders up below, and the director all the orders above. So this is the paragraph that you have to copy paste and explain. So this is how you can narrow your big chunky paragraphs into smaller paragraphs, so that you're not writing so lengthy stories, right? So I hope that you were able to identify and understand this particular question. Let's meet in the next and the final question for this particular past paper.